He laughed when I found the text, said I was just being dramatic. He stopped laughing when he lost everything. His female coworker, Michelle, texted him, "Hope your clueless wife doesn't find out how you blush when I touch your hand. See you tonight." He actually laughed in my face, told me it was just office BS and that I needed to chill out. "Don't be so dramatic, Jane." So I smiled. I played along. This morning he woke up screaming. When he saw the note I left on the dining room table, his hands wouldn't stop shaking. "Hope your clueless wife doesn't find out how you blush when I touch your hand. See you tonight." I read that message on my husband Sean's phone while folding his laundry on a Wednesday afternoon. The sender was saved as Michelle Work. Just Michelle. No last name. When I confronted him moments later, holding out his brand new iPhone with her words glowing on the screen, Sean did the one thing I never expected. He chuckled. It wasn't a nervous titter. It was a deep, dismissive laugh that said I was being ridiculous. "Babe, it's just office banter," he said, waving his hand like he was shooing a fly. "Michelle's like that with everyone. You're being dramatic." So, I smiled. I kissed his cheek, the skin still damp from his shower. I went back to folding his boxer briefs like nothing had happened. But something had. In that instant, something cold and sharp, like a shard of surgical steel, settled right into my chest, just left of my heart. If Sean wanted a clueless wife, if that's the role he needed me to play so he could feel clever, then I would give him the performance of his life. For the next 11 months, I played that role to perfection. I was the doting, sweet, and utterly clueless Jane. All the while, I was documenting every single lie, every late-night project deadline, every receipt from a hotel I'd never seen, every whisper of a perfume that wasn't mine. This morning, Sean woke up screaming when he discovered I had known everything, all along. His hands wouldn't stop shaking when he read the note I left for him. But that's the payoff. That comes later. First, let me tell you about the day I stopped being the trusting wife and became someone else entirely. Before we continue, I want to thank you for being here, for listening to this. If you believe that trust and truth are the only things that matter in a relationship, please consider subscribing. It helps us share more stories that need to be heard. It shows you're one of the good ones. Honestly, if you've ever been lied to, if you've ever had your gut tell you something was wrong, this story is your validation. And if you don't hit that subscribe button, I have to wonder, what are you hiding? Don't be the person who scrolls past. Prove you're on the right side of this. Subscribe now, and let's see how this nightmare unfolded. It was late September, the kind of Wednesday afternoon in Chicago that can't make up its mind. Not quite summer, but the biting edge of fall hadn't yet blown in off the lake. I'd taken a half day of PTO from the ad agency downtown where I work as a project coordinator. Nothing unusual. I was drowning in saved-up vacation days and needed to tackle the mountain of household chores that always piles up when both people in a marriage work full-time. Our condo was quiet, just the low hum of the dryer finishing its cycle in the laundry closet off the kitchen. I'd already folded 2 loads, stacked them in neat piles on our bed. I was starting the third. The bedroom window was open, letting in a breeze that carried the smell of cut grass from the courtyard 3 floors below. I could hear kids playing somewhere in the distance, their voices high and carefree. Sean was in the shower. I could hear the water running, a powerful, steady drum against the tile. I could hear him humming something tuneless, off-key, the way he always did when he thought no one was listening. We had been married for 7 years. We met at Northwestern, dated for 3 years before he proposed on the shore of Lake Michigan, right by the planetarium. We got married in a small ceremony at a vineyard in Michigan, just family and our closest friends. For most of those 7 years, I thought we were happy. Not some perfect fairy tale, but solid. The kind of couple that actually likes each other. The kind of couple that would make it for the long haul. We were saving up to buy a house in the suburbs, maybe Oak Park or Evanston. We were talking about kids. I was pulling warm towels from the basket when his phone, charging on the nightstand, lit up. I wasn't snooping. I want to be crystal clear about that. I have never been that person. I trusted him. But I was standing right there, close enough to see the notification banner when it appeared on his unlocked screen. The phone was face up. He hadn't even bothered to hide it. The message preview displayed in full. The words registered in my brain before I could even process them, before I could look away. Hope your clueless wife doesn't find out how you blush when I touch your hand. See you tonight. Below that, the name, Michelle Work. And next to it, a little heart emoji and a winky face. I just stood there, holding one of Sean's navy blue bath towels, staring at those words. My mind went completely blank, like a TV screen switching to static. Then, just as fast, it started racing, a million thoughts crashing into each other so fast I couldn't track a single one. Clueless wife. She had called me clueless. The shower was still running. Sean was still humming. Everything in our bedroom, the unmade bed, the basket of laundry, the book I was halfway through on my nightstand, looked exactly as it had 5 seconds earlier. But I knew with a certainty that chilled me to the bone that nothing was the same. Our entire life was a lie. The strangest part was my reaction, or my lack of one. I didn't cry. My hands didn't start shaking. My knees didn't go weak. I didn't feel the urge to throw his phone against the wall or barge into the bathroom and demand answers. Instead, I felt this immediate, bizarre distance. It was like I had stepped outside my own body and was watching this scene happen to some other woman, some poor, pathetic wife in a bad daytime movie. There was no hot wave of panic, no gut-wrenching sob. Just this cold, sharp, diamond-hard clarity that settled into the center of my chest and stayed there. It was pure, unadulterated ice. I picked up his phone. My fingers were steady. I held it with just my fingertips, as if it were contaminated. The message was still glowing. I read it again, slower this time, analyzing every word like it was a client brief. Hope your clueless wife doesn't find out. This woman, Michelle, felt comfortable enough, brazen enough, in whatever relationship she had with my husband to openly mock me. In a text message, to his phone. The casual, breathtaking cruelty of it was what struck me most. This wasn't some hidden, shame-filled mistake. They weren't even trying to hide. They were making jokes about it. They were making jokes about me. The shower turned off. The sudden silence was deafening. I heard the scrape of the curtain rings on the rod. I had maybe 30 seconds. I set the towel down on the bed. I kept holding his phone. When the bathroom door opened, Sean walked out, steam rolling into the bedroom behind him. He was wearing nothing but a pair of gray sweatpants, a hand towel slung over his shoulders as he scrubbed his hair. His face was relaxed, flushed from the heat. He had absolutely no idea his entire world had just tilted on its axis. I held the phone out toward him. The screen was black now, but I didn't need it to be lit. The words were burned into my memory. My voice when I spoke was eerily steady. It surprised even me. Sean, who is Michelle from work? I kept my tone light, breezy, curious, not accusatory. The same voice I'd used to ask what he wanted for dinner or if he'd remembered to take out the recycling. I watched his face, every micro expression. I was looking for the panic, the guilt, the oh crap moment. He glanced at the phone in my hand, then at my face. For half a second, less than that, something flickered in his eyes, a tiny spark of alarm, but it was gone so fast I almost thought I'd imagined it. And then he laughed. It wasn't a nervous laugh. It wasn't the forced, awkward sound of someone caught red-handed. It was a confident, easy, genuinely amused laugh. He waved his hand, that same dismissive gesture. Oh God, that. It's just office BS, Jane. Seriously. Michelle is a lot. She messes with everyone. It's just banter. Don't be dramatic. Dramatic. The way he said that word. It landed like a slap. It was the condescension in it. He wasn't just lying, he was gaslighting me. He was framing my completely valid concern about a wildly inappropriate message as a me problem. A personality flaw. As if I was the one who was out of line for even asking, as if I should be embarrassed for being suspicious. I had a choice in that moment, a clear fork in the road. I could push, I could demand to see his phone, I could scroll through his messages with Michelle work, I could scream, cry, and throw things, I could call him out on the pathetic, obvious lie he had just fed me, or I could do something else. I smiled at him, a sweet, understanding smile. I nodded, like his explanation made perfect, total sense. I even stepped forward and kissed him on the cheek. His skin was warm. Okay, I said, my voice soft. Sorry, I was just curious. Then I turned back to the laundry basket, picked up one of his t-shirts and started folding, as if the conversation had never happened, as if I believed every single word. Sean stood there for a beat, watching me. I could feel his eyes on my back. He was probably surprised and relieved at how easily I'd backed down, how simple I was. Then he picked up his phone from where I'd set it on the dresser, glanced at it quickly, probably to text her a warning, and walked into our closet to get dressed. The moment he was out of sight, I set down the t-shirt and sat on the edge of our bed. My hands were starting to shake now, but it wasn't from fear or heartbreak. It was from adrenaline. It was from the sudden, chilling rush of understanding that had crashed over me like ice water. He thought I was clueless. He called me dramatic. If Sean wanted me to be the clueless wife, I would become exactly that. I would play the role so convincingly, so perfectly, that he would never, ever suspect. And while he relaxed into his comfortable, arrogant lie, while he and Michelle laughed about his dramatic wife, I would be watching. I would be documenting. I would be learning every single detail, and I would wait. I began cataloging everything in my mind right then and there. The exact tone of his dismissive laugh, the way he'd waved his hand, the unshakable confidence in his voice when he called it office banter. The fact that he immediately checked his phone after I gave it back to him, no doubt to warn Michelle that his clueless wife had almost stumbled onto the truth. I filed all of it away in mental folders that would become very, very real. The rest of that Wednesday was a blur of forced normalcy. I finished the laundry, putting everything away in its proper drawer. I made dinner, chicken parmesan, one of his favorites. We ate together at our small kitchen table. Sean talked about his day, complaining about a difficult client at the firm, a project deadline coming up. He didn't mention anyone named Michelle. I asked follow-up questions. I laughed at his stories. I played the part. After dinner, we watched TV on the couch. Sean checked his phone constantly, at least a dozen times during a 1-hour episode of whatever show we were pretending to watch. Each time, he angled the screen away from me. Each time, I pretended not to notice. When a notification lit up his screen, he'd glance at it, and sometimes a tiny, private smile would touch his lips before he put the phone back down, face down. Always face down now. When he suggested we go to bed early, I agreed. We brushed our teeth side by side. He kissed me goodnight, a quick, dry peck. He rolled over and was asleep in minutes. I lay awake beside him in the dark for hours, listening to the steady rhythm of his breathing. My mind was a steel trap, running calculations. How long? How serious was it? Was Michelle the first? I started searching my memory, rewinding the tapes. The signs were all there. I'd just been too trusting to read them. Sean had mentioned a Michelle a few times, casually. Michelle on my team, Michelle from legal. Always in the context of work. He'd been coming home late on Thursdays, every Thursday, usually around 9 or 10 p.m. Projects on fire, he'd say. Big client dinner. I never questioned it. I trusted him. That's what marriage is. But that marriage died on a Wednesday afternoon while I was folding towels. The woman who trusted blindly was gone. In her place was someone new, someone cold, someone who would watch and wait and document everything. The next morning I was up before him. I made the coffee. My hands were rock steady as I poured his mug and set it on the counter exactly how he liked it. He came out, dressed for work in one of his expensive suits, kissed me on the forehead, and told me he might be late tonight. This damn project is killing me. I smiled. Okay, honey, don't work too hard. The second the door clicked shut behind him, I sat down at our kitchen table. The silence in the condo was heavy. I made a plan. No confrontations, no emotional outbursts, just cold, careful, methodical observation. This wasn't about catching him anymore. I already knew. This was about protecting myself. This was about making sure that when the truth finally came out, it wouldn't be his word against mine. It would be my mountain of evidence against his pile of lies. I called in sick to work that Thursday. A migraine, I told my supervisor. I'd been at the agency for 4 years. I barely ever took time off. No one questioned it. I opened my laptop. I created a new password-protected document. I titled it Timeline. I started writing everything I could remember, every late Thursday night for the past 6 months, every time he'd been weird with his phone, every new expensive shirt that appeared in his closet, every excuse that sounded reasonable at the time but now felt paper thin. The document grew. 2 hours later, I sat back and read it. I felt sick. The pattern was so obvious. I had just been too in love to see it. Over the next few weeks, I transformed. On the surface, I was the perfect supportive wife. I went to work, I came home, I made dinner, I asked about his day, I smiled and laughed in all the right places. But underneath, I was a detective in my own home. Every behavior became data, every conversation, a piece of evidence. The signs, once invisible, were now screamingly obvious. He started showering the moment he walked in the door. Even on days he claimed he'd just been in meetings. He'd head straight for the bathroom, the water running for 20 minutes, washing away her perfume, her touch. He bought new cologne. I found it in the bathroom one morning, a sleek black bottle of Tom Ford, incredibly expensive. Nothing like the fresh, clean scents he used to wear. This was musky, heavy, obvious. A colleague recommended it, he said when I asked, my voice light. He didn't say which colleague, I just nodded. It's strong. I made a note of the date. And the lie. His phone became a fifth limb. It never left his side. It went to the bathroom with him. It sat on the nightstand while he slept. And always, always face down. At dinner, it sat beside his plate. When it buzzed, he'd snatch it up, his face illuminated by the glow. I'd see his expression soften, that private smile I used to think was just for me. Just work stuff, he'd murmur, fingers flying. Just work stuff became his mantra, his catch-all excuse for the secret life he was living right in front of me. Maintaining this performance was the hardest thing I've ever done. It was exhausting. We went to a dinner party at his boss's house. I wore the blue dress he liked. I laughed at his stupid jokes, touched his arm, and talked with enthusiasm about the kitchen renovation we were planning. Another couple, James and Rebecca, came over. "You two are still so cute," Rebecca said. 7 years and you look like newlyweds. It gives the rest of us hope." I felt Sean's hand find mine. His fingers laced through mine in that old, familiar way that once made my heart swell. Now it just felt like part of the act. I smiled at Rebecca. "We're very lucky," I said. And I meant it. I was so lucky I'd found out before I wasted even more of my life. As I was thinking that, I felt his phone vibrate in his pocket. He subtly pulled it out under the table, his other hand still holding mine. I saw that little smile cross his face as he read the text. He typed a one-handed reply. The entire betrayal encapsulated in one 10-second interaction. I kept cooking his favorite meals. I kept doing his laundry. I gave him absolutely no reason to suspect that the clueless wife was anything but. I needed him to be careless. If he thought I was stupid, he would get comfortable. He would get sloppy, and sloppy people leave a trail. 3 weeks into my new life as a secret agent, my older sister Queen called. She was driving down from Boston for the weekend. "Just wanted to see the new couch," she said, but I knew better. I hadn't been myself on the phone. She was coming to check on me. Sean was his usual charming self when she arrived Friday night. Hugging her, asking about her job, making her a drink. It was one of the things I'd loved about him, how he charmed everyone, back when I thought it was genuine. Saturday morning, Sean left to run errands. The moment his car was out of the parking garage, Queen turned to me, coffee mug in hand. "Okay, spill. What's going on?" "Nothing," I lied. "Just stressed from work." She stared at me. "Jane, I've known you your entire life. You're hollow. You're here, but you're not. Are you and Sean okay?" I wanted to tell her. God, I wanted to break down and tell her everything. The text, the late nights, the cologne, the constant sickening performance. But I couldn't. Queen is a force of nature. She would have strapped on armor, kicked down the door, and confronted Sean immediately. She would have blown my entire operation. So I lied to my sister. I doubled down on the work stress excuse. She didn't look convinced, but she let it drop. When she left on Sunday, she hugged me tight. "Whatever it is, Jane, you call me. I'll be on a plane in an hour. I mean it." Her visit solidified it. I was in this alone. A month into my observation, I had the pattern down. Thursdays. Every Thursday he was working late. He wore his best shirts on Thursdays. He used extra Tom Ford on Thursdays. And when he came home at 10:30 p.m., he smelled faintly of floral perfume, a scent I did not own. Then I found the first piece of physical proof. He'd left his suit jacket draped over a kitchen chair. I was hanging it up when I felt a crinkle in the pocket. It was a receipt from a hotel bar, the Riverside Inn, a boutique place downtown I'd never even heard of. The date was from the previous Thursday. The timestamp, 10:15 p.m. The items, 2 old fashions, total $3,800. Last Thursday, he'd told me he was stuck at the office finalizing a presentation. He had been at a hotel bar, buying drinks for her. My hands were completely steady. I took a photo of the receipt with my phone. I made sure the date, time, and location were crystal clear, then I carefully folded it and put it right back in his pocket. I went to my laptop and opened the timeline document. I created a new encrypted folder. I labeled it Evidence. I added the photo. The evidence was building, but receipts weren't enough. I needed the source. I needed his phone. I needed help. I needed someone I could trust, absolutely. I needed my best friend. I called George while Sean was in one of his long post-work showers. George and I had been best friends since we were randomly assigned as roommates our freshman year at Northwestern. She worked in digital forensics for a private investigation firm downtown. Her job, literally, was to recover data from phones and computers for legal cases. She knew everything. We met at our usual coffee shop the next morning. I told Sean I was just grabbing coffee with George before work. He barely grunted, his face buried in his phone. George was already there, a latte waiting for me. She took one look at my face and her smile faded. "Okay, Jane, you look like death. What's up?" I had a cover story prepared. "I'm worried about our network security. I think someone might be accessing our cloud storage." It was flimsy. We both knew it. George just tilted her head, her eyes sharp. She reached across the table and put her hand on mine. "Jane, it's me. Cut the crap. What's really going on?" And just like that, the dam broke. For 6 weeks, I had been a fortress of control, but sitting across from my best friend, I felt it all crack. "I need to know what's on Sean's phone," I whispered. "I think he's cheating on me." George didn't ask a single question. She didn't say, "I'm sorry," or, "Are you sure?" She just nodded, pulled her laptop from her messenger bag, and said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do." For the next hour, she gave me a crash course in digital forensics. She showed me how to access our shared cloud accounts, which we both paid for, and see device activity. She showed me how to access his phone's backups without leaving a trace. And then, she showed me the nuclear option, how to set up a mirror on his device. Because his phone was linked to our shared Wi-Fi and our shared family cloud account, I had every legal right to see what was being backed up. "This is legal, Jane," she said, her voice calm and professional. "But once you see it, you can't unsee it. Are you absolutely sure you want to pull this thread?" Was I sure? Part of me wanted to go back to being the woman I was, the one who believed her husband, the one who wasn't cataloging betrayal in a secret folder, but that woman was gone. "I'm sure," I said. "Good," George said. "Whatever you find, I'm here, day or night. You call me, and I will burn his world to the ground with you." That night, I waited. Sean came home, claimed a long meeting, ate dinner, and was asleep by 11. I lay beside him, listening, waiting. At 2 a.m., when I was sure he was in a deep sleep, I slipped out of bed and went to our home office. I closed the door. I opened my laptop. My hands were shaking. I followed George's instructions. I logged into our shared cloud. I found his device backups, and I opened the message logs. At first, it was normal. Texts with his buddies about the Bears, group chats with his family, work emails. Then I found her, Michelle Work. He'd deleted the original text I'd seen, but he hadn't deleted the 11 months that came before it. I started at the beginning. The early messages were innocent enough, professional, but friendly. Then the tone shifted. The compliments, the late-night texts, the inside jokes, the flirtation turning into something else. I read message after message, my blood turning to ice. I watched my marriage dissolve in real time. They talked about the hotels. They talked about restaurants I'd never heard of. They sent each other photos. I clicked on one before I realized what it was and slammed the laptop shut, my heart hammering. I took a deep breath. I opened it again. I had to know. I scrolled past the images. I kept reading. In an exchange from 2 months ago, Michelle asked, "Are you sure Jane doesn't suspect anything?" His response appeared on my screen. "She doesn't have a clue. Jane is sweet, but not exactly observant. She's too trusting. It's fine. Sweet, but not exactly observant. That's how he saw me. That's how my husband of 7 years described me to his mistress, as some naive, trusting idiot." I sat back in my chair in the dark, and I didn't feel sadness. I didn't feel anger. I felt nothing. Just that cold, hard, crystalline core in my chest. The shock was gone. This was just confirmation. Do you know what happens when you push someone that far? When you call them stupid and naive while you betray them? They don't just get sad, they get smart. If you know exactly what I'm talking about, if you've ever been underestimated, smash that subscribe button right now. Let's be honest. People who don't subscribe to stories like this are usually the ones who are afraid of what they'll find. They'd rather stay sweet and not observant. Don't be that person. Prove you're not clueless. Hit subscribe, and let's get to the good part. My digital investigation became a nightly ritual. As soon as Sean was asleep, I was in the office digging deeper, and the hole just got deeper and deeper. I discovered a separate email account, a secret credit card, an Amex Platinum, linked to that email. I had no idea. We were supposedly saving for a house, clipping coupons, but he had a secret, high-limit credit card. I opened the statements. The picture it painted was horrifying. Charges from boutique hotels all over Chicago. The Peninsula, the Thompson, the Waldorf Astoria, charges from expensive restaurants, Alinea, Gibson's, tasting menus and $200 bottles of wine, jewelry stores, a charge from Tiffany's on Michigan Avenue, $847. I checked the date. It was 2 days before our 7th anniversary. For our anniversary, he'd given me a card and taken me to our usual neighborhood Italian place. The check was $120. 2 days earlier, he'd spent nearly $900 on her. I never saw a bracelet. Every charge was a fresh stab in the back. He wasn't just cheating, he was liquidating our future, using our shared money, our house down payment money, to fund a lavish double life. But I didn't cry. I was past tears. I screenshotted everything. I downloaded every PDF statement. I created folders within folders, organizing the evidence by date, by type, by location. My office was a war room. My laptop was my weapon. The most damning evidence came from his digital calendar. He was meticulous. Work meetings were blue. Personal appointments were green. And there, in purple, regular Thursday evening appointments. Project Deep Dive. 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. every single Thursday for 11 months. I cross-referenced the calendar with the credit card statements. The pattern was perfect. Project Deep Dive meant hotel bars and steak dinners. Then I found the trips, 3 business conferences in the past 6 months. Chicago in March, Seattle in May, Boston in July. I remembered them. I'd driven him to O'Hare for 2 of them. I'd texted him good morning and good night while he was away on business. I pulled the Amex statements for those dates. No airline charges, no hotels in Seattle or Boston. Instead, I found charges from boutique hotels, less than 15 miles from our condo, the Riverside Inn, again, the Metropolitan. He had never left the city, he'd packed a bag, had me drive him to the airport, and then, what? Taken an Uber to a hotel in a different neighborhood to spend 3 days with her, while I was at home, watering his plants and missing him, the sheer sociopathic planning it took. I felt my stomach clench. This was not a mistake. This was not a moment of weakness. This was a calculated, sustained second life. In one message, they discussed taking a trip to Napa. Once, Sean figured out how to explain being gone for a week. I sat in my dark office looking at 11 months of deception, 11 months of him calling me sweet and trusting while he methodically drained our bank account and our marriage. This wasn't just an affair. It was a conspiracy. I needed a lawyer. I texted George. I need the best divorce lawyer in Chicago, a shark. I don't care what it costs. Her reply was instant. Jennifer Morrison. She's a killer, expensive but worth every cent. I'll send you her number. Calling that number was the hardest thing I'd done yet. As long as I was just collecting evidence, I could pretend I was just preparing. The moment I hired a lawyer, it was real. I waited 2 days, 2 more days of playing the clueless wife, 2 more days of him kissing me goodnight before rolling over to text her. That casual disregard made the call easier. I took my lunch break on Friday and called from my car. I need to schedule a consultation to discuss asset protection. I got an appointment for the following Tuesday. I told Sean I had a dentist appointment. He just nodded, not even looking up from his laptop. Okay, sounds good. Tuesday morning, I dressed in my best suit, a black blazer, gray blouse, dark pants. I looked like a woman who was in control. Jennifer Morrison's office was on the 40th floor of a building in the Loop, with views of the entire city. Jennifer herself was in her 50s, with steel gray hair and a sharp bob and eyes that didn't miss a thing. She shook my hand firmly. George, speaks very highly of you, she said. Tell me what's going on. I didn't speak. I reached into my bag and pulled out a flash drive. The flash drive I'd spent all weekend organizing. My husband has been having an affair for 11 months, I said, my voice steady. He doesn't know that I know. Everything you need is on this drive. Every text, every email, every credit card statement, every hotel receipt. Jennifer took the drive and plugged it into her computer. She opened the files. For 20 minutes, the only sound in the office was the click, click, click of her mouse and the occasional soft of approval. Finally, she looked up, and for the first time, she smiled. It wasn't a warm smile. It was a smile of professional appreciation. "Mrs. Evans," she said, "this is the most thorough, ironclad documentation I have ever seen from a client. He has no idea?" "None," I said. "I've been playing the part of the clueless wife he thinks I am." "Good," she said, leaning forward. "That gives us an incredible advantage. The element of surprise is everything. Now let's talk about your biggest shared asset, the condo." We spent the next hour mapping out a strategy. Jennifer explained that while I could file for divorce immediately, we could be smarter. We could protect my interests before he ever knew what was coming. "Your biggest asset is the condo," she repeated. "You're both on the deed. You split the mortgage." "We saved for years for that down payment," I said quietly. "He thinks you're sweet but not observant, right?" Jennifer asked, a sharp glint in her eye. "He thinks you're just the wife who handles the bills but doesn't really understand finance?" I nodded. "We'll use that," she said. "We are going to use his own arrogance against him. I'm going to draft a set of standard mortgage refinancing documents. We'll tell him we're locking in a lower interest rate. Buried on page 17 of 23 in the dense legal jargon will be a standard quit-claim deed, transferring his equity and title in the property entirely to you." I felt a jolt. "Is that legal?" "Perfectly," Jennifer said. "He is a competent adult. He will have every opportunity to read what he's signing. If he chooses not to, if he trusts his clueless wife to handle it, that's not fraud. That's negligence on his part." A part of me felt a twinge of guilt. But then I remembered. I remembered the $847 bracelet. I remembered the conference he'd faked while staying in a hotel 15 miles away. I remembered sweet but not observant. The guilt vanished. "He'll sign it," I said. "He won't even read the first page." "I know," Jennifer said. "Let's get to work." 2 weeks later, the trap was set. Jennifer had drafted the documents. They were a masterpiece of boring, dense legalese. The quit claim was buried deep, a single paragraph that looked just like all the others. I chose Sunday brunch. I made pancakes. Sean sat at the table, scrolling through his phone, smiling at texts from her. "Oh, I meant to tell you," I said casually. "Our bank called. Interest rates have dropped like crazy. We can refinance and save almost $300 a month." He looked up, distracted. "Yeah? Oh, cool. Sounds good. I can handle all the paperwork," I offered. "I'll just need you to sign a few forms. It's time sensitive, though. They need them back by the end of the week to lock the rate." He waved his hand. That same dismissive wave. "Sure, babe. Whatever you think is best. You're better at that stuff anyway." You're better at that stuff anyway. On Wednesday evening, I spread the papers across our coffee table. I had yellow sign here tabs strategically placed. "Ugh, so much paperwork," he groaned, sitting on the couch. "I know," I said sympathetically. "I just need your signature on the yellow tabs." He picked up a pen. He was texting Michelle with his other hand. I could see her name on his screen. He didn't read a single page. He just flipped, signed, signed. I watched his familiar signature, the one I'd seen on our marriage license, scratch across the paper that signed away his half of our home. In less than 5 minutes, it was done. "All set," he said, handing me the stack and turning his full attention back to his phone. He had no idea what he'd just done. I gathered the papers, my hands steady. The sole ownership of our condo was now legally, irrevocably mine. For 3 months, I had been cold, methodical, and detached. I was protecting my assets. I was building my case. But that all changed on a Thursday evening in late November. Sean had left his phone on the kitchen counter while he went to the bathroom. I was washing dishes. It lit up. A message preview from Michelle. I glanced over. I couldn't help it. "Your wife really is clueless, isn't she? Must be so boring going home to someone who doesn't even notice when you're thinking about me." I stood there, my hands in the soapy water, and I felt the ice in my chest crack. Not to melt, but to sharpen, to harden into something else. It was one thing to know. It was one thing to read their plans. It was another thing entirely to see them actively mocking me, laughing at me, calling me boring, pitying my husband for having to come home to his clueless wife. All the careful detachment vanished. Divorce wasn't enough. Taking the condo wasn't enough. They needed to feel this. They had built their little secret world on my back, laughing at me. I was going to burn that world to the ground. I dried my hands, picked up my own phone, and took a picture of his screen. Then I went back to the dishes. That night, after Sean was snoring, I was back in my office. I wasn't just documenting anymore, I was hunting. I was looking for her. Michelle, who was she? I scrolled through months of their messages, looking for a last name, a clue. I found it in an old message from Kyle. "Don't worry about the Patterson file, I'll handle it." Michelle Patterson. I opened a new browser. I started searching. 10 minutes later, I found her Facebook profile, and I found him. Michelle Patterson was married. Her husband was Denzel Patterson. His profile was public. He was a high school history teacher out in Naperville. His profile picture was him in a classroom smiling, surrounded by student projects. His feed was full of pictures of their golden retriever, anniversary posts. 5 years with my amazing wife. So grateful for her support. Zoe had even commented, "Love you, baby." I stared at Denzel's kind, smiling face, and I felt an unexpected, sickening kinship with this total stranger. He was me. He was the other clueless spouse. He was being played just as badly as I was. He deserved to know, but more than that, Denzel was my weapon. If I confronted Sean, it would be a he said, she said, a domestic dispute. But if Denzel found out, he wouldn't be quiet. He would be angry, and he would blow up both their spots. There's a line of betrayal that once crossed means there is no coming back. They didn't just cross it, they danced on it. They laughed and pointed back at me. If you've ever been pushed this far, you know this isn't revenge anymore. It's justice. Hit that subscribe button right now if you believe they deserve exactly what's coming to them. Don't even think twice. People who hesitate are the ones who get walked all over. People who subscribe are the ones who are ready to fight back. Go to the comments right now and tell me why you wouldn't subscribe. I'm genuinely curious what a coward's excuse sounds like. For everyone else, let's finish this. I spent the entire weekend compiling a new evidence package. This one wasn't for my lawyer. This one was for Denzel. I was ruthless. I included everything. The hotel receipts, the ones with both their names, the text messages, the explicit ones, the ones where they planned their business trips, the one where they called us clueless and boring, the credit card statements, the Tiffany's bracelet, the steak dinners, the photos, the ones I couldn't stand to look at for more than a second. I put them all in a folder labeled Physical Relationship. I organized it all into a perfect chronological narrative of the affair. I wanted Denzel to see exactly what I saw, the scope, the duration, the sheer calculated betrayal. On Sunday night, I composed a brief message. To Denzel Patterson, from a friend. Subject, your wife. Mr. Patterson, I don't know you, but I think you deserve to know the truth. Your wife, Michelle Patterson, has been having an affair with my husband, Sean Evans, for the past 11 months. They both work at the same firm. All the evidence you need is attached. I am sorry you have to find out this way. I sent it from an anonymous, encrypted email account George had helped me set up. Then I closed my laptop, and I waited. I didn't have to wait long. 2 hours later, around 9 p.m., Sean's phone, sitting on the coffee table, started blowing up. I was watching it all on my laptop's mirrored screen. A flood of texts from Michelle work. Michelle. He knows everything. Michelle. Sean, he has proof. Screenshots, receipts, everything. Michelle. How did he find out? Sean. What? What proof? Calm down. Michelle. Hotel receipts with both our names, our messages, photos, everything. Someone sent it to him anonymously. Michelle. He's losing it. He's calling my boss. Sean. He is calling HR. What do we do? Sean, sitting next to me on the couch, went pale. He jumped up, grabbing his phone. It's work. A crisis. I have to take this. He ran into the bedroom and slammed the door. I just sat there, sipping my herbal tea. The satisfaction was so cold, so sharp, it almost tasted metallic. This wasn't just revenge. This was consequences. Over the next few days, I watched their lives implode via text. Denzel, The mild-mannered history teacher had gone scorched earth. He did exactly what I'd hoped. He forwarded the entire evidence package to the head of human resources at their firm. Their company, it turned out, had very strict ethics policies, not just about affairs between colleagues, but about misuse of company resources. And as I'd discovered, Sean and Michelle had been sloppy. They'd used company credit cards for client dinners that were actually romantic dates. They'd booked conference rooms that were actually hotel rooms. Michelle was placed on administrative leave within a week. Sean received a formal summons to meet with HR and legal. At home, he was a wreck. He wasn't sleeping, he was pacing. He snapped at me for making the coffee too weak, and then immediately apologized, his eyes wide with panic. "I'm just so stressed, babe," he said, running his hands through his hair. "This project at work is a total nightmare. Some personnel issues." I played my role perfectly. I rubbed his back. "I'm so sorry, honey, that sounds awful. Is there anything I can do?" "No," he said, his voice tight. "Nothing for you to worry about." He had no idea. He had no idea the personnel issue was him, and the person who had set the bomb was rubbing his back. The chaos continued through December. The HR investigation was ripping their department apart. People were being interviewed. Email servers were being searched. Their cozy little affair was now a corporate scandal. By mid-December, I knew it was time. I had the condo, I had the evidence, and their careers were already in flames. It was time for the final act. I scheduled one last meeting with Jennifer Morrison. When I arrived, her desk was covered in organized stacks of paper. "We need to choose a day," she said, calm as ever. "The timing is critical. Psychology plays a significant role." She pointed to her calendar. "Tuesday morning, 2 weeks from now, January 7th. People are at their lowest on a Tuesday. The optimism of the weekend is gone. The week stretches out ahead. Their defenses are down. It's the perfect time to overwhelm them. January 7th. It felt perfect. "The accounts will be frozen at 6:00 a.m. sharp," she said. "I'll coordinate with the bank. By the time he wakes up, his access to all shared finances will be severed. The divorce papers are filed. The restraining order is ready to be activated. The apartment is yours. Everything is in place." She looked at me, her eyes serious. "Are you prepared for what Tuesday morning will bring?" I thought about the last 11 months. The lies, the performance, the text messages calling me boring and clueless. "I'm ready," I said. "This is it. The moment we've been waiting for. The payoff. He is about to walk into a house that is no longer his. To a wife who has been 10 steps ahead of him for a year. His life is over. He just doesn't know it yet. If your heart is pounding, you have to subscribe. This isn't just a story. It's a masterclass in justice. Subscribing is the only way to see this through to the end. If you click away now, you will always wonder. Don't live with that regret. Don't be clueless. Hit subscribe." That final Monday evening, Sean texted me. "Working late. Urgent project." I knew from my mirrored messages he was actually at a dive bar with Michelle, both of them panic drinking and trying to get their story straight for HR. I used his absence. I went to our storage closet and pulled down his suitcases. I started in the bedroom. I packed his clothes, his expensive, cheating cologne-scented shirts, his suits, his jeans, his shoes. I went to the bathroom, his electric razor, his toothbrush, the bottle of Tom Ford cologne. I dumped that right down the drain and packed the empty bottle. I packed his books, his laptop, his chargers. As I worked, the memories came. The 7 years, the good times, the vacations, the lazy Sundays. They felt like scenes from a different life, a movie about two strangers. I felt no sadness, just finality. By midnight, 3 large suitcases were stacked neatly by the front door. The condo already felt different, bigger, lighter. He came home around 12:30 a.m. looking gray and exhausted. He barely glanced at me, just mumbled "long night," and went straight to the shower. He was asleep in minutes. He had no idea it was the last time he would ever sleep in that bed. I stayed awake, sitting in the dark living room. At 5:00 a.m., my alarm went off. I got up quietly. At 5:30 a.m., there was a soft knock. The locksmith George had recommended. He was quiet, professional. He changed the locks on the front door and the deadbolt in 20 minutes. He handed me 2 sets of new keys. At 6:00 a.m., I got a text from Jennifer. Done. The accounts were frozen. At 6:05 a.m., I went down to the lobby and removed Sean's name from our mailbox. At 6:15 a.m., I began to set the stage. I went to my office and printed everything, every text, every receipt, every bank statement. I spread it all out on our dining room table. I arranged it like a museum exhibit, a timeline of his betrayal. Exhibit A, the first texts. Exhibit B, the hotel receipts. Exhibit C, the business trips. Exhibit D, the Tiffany's bracelet. Exhibit E, the clueless and boring texts. The evidence was overwhelming, undeniable. In the very center of the table, I placed a large manila envelope. Inside, the filed divorce papers, a copy of the condo's new deed with only my name on it, a copy of the refinancing documents he had signed with page 17 highlighted, a copy of the restraining order. On top of the envelope, I placed a single handwritten note. You were right about one thing. I was clueless. For about an hour, then I started watching. For 11 months, I've documented every lie, every hotel, every text message where you and Michelle laughed about me. The clueless wife you married died that day. You've been dealing with someone else ever since. The condo is mine. The accounts are frozen. Your bags are at the door. You have 10 minutes to take them and leave. If you are not gone in 10 minutes, I will call the police. I made a fresh cup of coffee. I sat on the couch in the living room, where I had a clear view of the front door and the dining room table. And I waited. At 7:00 a.m. on the dot, I heard it. The scrape of his key in the new lock. Scrape, jiggle, scrape. He tried it again, harder. Jiggle, jiggle, thud. He hit the door with his fist. Jane, he called out, his voice confused. Jane, open the door. What's wrong with the lock? I counted to 10. I took a slow sip of coffee. I stood up, my hand perfectly steady, and walked to the door. This was it. The moment I had planned for 335 days. The moment the clueless wife finally took off the mask. I opened the door. Sean stood there, his key in his hand, his face a mask of exhaustion and confusion. What's going on? My key. I didn't say a word. I just stepped aside and gestured for him to enter. He walked past me and I watched his eyes take in the scene. First, he saw the 3 suitcases by the door, his suitcases. Confusion. Then, his gaze moved to the dining room table. I watched the exact moment he saw it, the realization. The color drained from his face. It didn't just fade, it fled. He went from tired and annoyed to a ghostly, sickly gray in a single second. He took one step toward the table, then stopped, as if his legs wouldn't work. His hands started to shake. He turned back to me, his mouth opening and closing. No sound came out. What is this? He finally whispered. His voice was rough. I closed the front door. Click. The sound of the new deadbolt sliding home was so loud, so final. Why don't you take a closer look? I said, my voice quiet. He moved toward the table like a zombie. He stared down at the papers. I watched his eyes dart from the text messages to the hotel receipts to the photos. He picked one up, the receipt from the Riverside Inn, the one from his Chicago conference. His hand was trembling so badly the paper rustled. Jane, he choked out. I can explain. This isn't what it looks like. Isn't it? I said. He dropped the receipt, and his eyes landed on the printed text. The one where he called me sweet but not observant. This is out of context, he said, his voice gaining a desperate, angry edge. Michelle and I are just friends. You spied on me. You went through my phone. That's insane, Jane. That's a complete violation of my privacy. He was blaming me. I just stared at him, the sheer, breathtaking audacity. You violated our marriage, I said, my voice like ice. You violated our vows. You violated my trust every single day for 11 months while you called me clueless to your mistress. I documented your choices. That's not a violation. That's protection. The anger vanished, replaced by pure, uncut panic. He saw the manila envelope. He fumbled with the clasp, his shaking hands barely able to open it. He pulled out the papers. He saw the divorce filing. He saw the new deed to the condo. He saw the refinancing papers, the highlighted clause on page 17. And then he read my note. I watched his eyes scan the words. I watched him get to the part about 11 months. He looked up at me, his face a ruin of shock and horror. 11 months? He whispered. You knew? You knew this whole time and you just let me? I didn't let you do anything, Sean, I said. You're a grown man. You made your choices. I just made mine. The condo is mine. The joint accounts are frozen. Your access to all our money is gone. Everything you thought you had, I've spent the last 11 months quietly and legally taking away from you. His legs gave out. He just collapsed. He sank to his knees on the hardwood floor, clutching the note, and he began to sob. Not just crying. He was screaming. Deep, wrenching, ugly sobs that shook his entire body. Please, he cried, the word tearing out of him. Please, Jane, baby, I love you. She meant nothing. It was a mistake, a stupid distraction. Please, we can fix this. I'll end it. I'll quit my job. We can go to counseling. Please. I looked down at the man kneeling on the floor of my home, the man I had loved for a decade, the man who had laughed in my face and called me dramatic, and I felt nothing. No pity, no anger, no satisfaction, just empty. It was over. No, I said. He looked up, tears and snot streaming down his face. What? What do you mean, no? We can fix this. No, we can't, I said, my voice absolute. The marriage is over. The divorce is filed. This condo is mine. I checked my watch. You have 7 minutes to take your suitcases and leave. After that, I am calling the police and having you removed for trespassing. You can't be serious, he shrieked. 7 years, you're just throwing it all away. You threw it away, Sean, I said. You threw it away every Thursday night. You threw it away when you bought her that bracelet. You threw it away every time you laughed about your clueless wife. I walked to the front door and opened it. I stood beside it. The wife you thought you married. She was a performance, a role you cast me in, and I played it perfectly, didn't I? Now, you have 5 minutes. He stayed on his knees for another 30 seconds, his body shaking, staring at me, probably hoping to see a flicker of the sweet wife he knew. He saw nothing. He finally understood. He climbed to his feet, moving like an old man. He stumbled to the door, grabbed his 3 suitcases, and walked out into the hallway without looking back. I closed the door. I turned the new deadbolt. Click, thud, and I was, for the first time in 11 months, completely and totally alone. And it was the best feeling in the world. I stood at the window and watched him load his car. He had to make 3 trips. After the last suitcase, he got into the driver's seat and just sat there, his head on the steering wheel. Even from 3 floors up, I could see his shoulders shaking. Eventually, he started the car and drove away. I watched until his car disappeared around the corner. The relief was profound. It wasn't a celebration. It was just quiet. The feeling of finally setting down something impossibly heavy. The condo was silent. I walked through the rooms. It already felt like mine. My phone rang. It was Jennifer, my lawyer. Good morning, she said, her voice crisp. Just wanted to update you. Kyle's attorney has received the filing. He also called screaming about the condo. He's attempting to contest the deed transfer, claiming you tricked him. My heart jumped. Can he? Absolutely not, Jennifer said, and I could hear the smile in her voice. He signed a legal document of his own free will. His negligence in not reading it is not grounds for fraud. The deed transfer is ironclad. The condo is yours, period. Relief flooded through me. Thank you, Jennifer. Oh, one more thing, she said. You might find this relevant. I have a colleague who works in employment law representing another party from your husband's firm. It seems Michelle Patterson was terminated for cause yesterday afternoon. Multiple policy violations, misuse of company funds, fraudulent expense reports. The works. Wow, I said. And, she continued, with her terminated and the investigation implicating him in the same fraud, Mr. Evans's position at the company became untenable. He resigned this morning, effective immediately. I sat down, fired, and he'd resigned. In one morning, he had lost his wife, his home, and his job. Also, Jennifer added, Denzel Patterson filed for divorce from Michelle last week. It seems their affair has effectively destroyed 2 marriages and 2 careers, a clean sweep. I hung up the phone and sat in the quiet. I had done it. I thought about him waking up screaming. I thought about his face when he saw that table of evidence. I thought about him reading my note and finally realizing. The clueless wife he and Michelle laughed at. She was the one holding all the cards. She was the one who saw everything. And in the end, she was the one who was left with everything. That was the truth he finally learned today. And that's the truth I'll carry with me, into the life I'm about to build, in this condo that is all mine. He lost his wife, his home, his job, and his mistress all in a single morning. And the clueless wife he laughed at, she has everything. That right there is what happens when you underestimate the person who's been quietly watching you. If this story of calculated justice had you on the edge of your seat, hit that like button right now. My favorite part was when he tried his key in the lock, and it just scraped, because his world was already over and he was the last to know. What was your favorite part? The note on the table? The call from the lawyer? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if you still haven't subscribed, I honestly don't know what to tell you. Do you want to miss the next story? Do you enjoy being the clueless one? Go down to the comments and tell me why. Tell me why you'd rather be left in the dark. For everyone else, for the ones who get it, subscribe, hit that notification bell, and I will see you in the next one.